I know I am using notes, and those are discouraged in a TED Talk, but to be honest, I threw my presentation out last night because I was inspired after a conversation I had yesterday and came up with this last night. So bear with me, I'm doing this on a whim. This past summer, I had the opportunity and privilege to participate in a committee that was researching public markets throughout the region. Now, if you don't know what a public market is, think of it as sort of a year-round farmer's market. And you've got a lot of vendors that are going to be selling prepared foods, sweets, pizza, pasta, stuff like that. But most of your vendors are selling fresh produce. It's a lot of growers, producers, and farmers that come in from around the country. You know, we visited the historic West Side Market in Cleveland, Ohio. If any of you have been there, it's beautiful, and I'm sure you can attest to that. We visited the North Market in Columbus, Ohio, the Lansing City Market in Lansing, Michigan, and actually I think I've got a slide. Yep, this is from the Lansing Market right here. And you know, the first thing I noticed, and the first thing that's really cool about these markets when you look at them, is that you realize that suddenly they're a connection hub. You are drawing in growers, producers, farmers from all across the region to a centralized location. And something cool happens there. When you bring in these growers and producers and farmers from various areas, they may be 100 miles away from each other, you bring them into a centralized location and they're able to communicate. They're able to talk, they're able to share problems and share solutions, share ideas, new methods and strategies, and they're able to build some relationships and bonds that they may not have been able to build before. So that's the first cool thing that you notice, but then round two, bring in the consumer aspect. Now, almost all of these public markets are located in densely populated urban centers, a downtown, so to speak. And a majority of your consumers are going to be city dwellers and urban livers. So suddenly, you're bringing in people who live in the city who typically don't go to the suburbs, and they're beginning to communicate with people who live in the suburbs. They're communicating with these growers and producers. They're getting to know them, getting to know their lifestyle, and really developing bonds and relationships with them as well. So you've got this connection hub all of a sudden that's got a mix of different cultures and lifestyles, and it really becomes an engine for community development. Now, a lot of cities started to see the power of these community development engines, and they decided, you know, let's use this. You know, one thing that I found really interesting as we were surveying all these public markets is that 100% of them were located in very high activity areas of town. Well, that seems normal, right? But the interesting part is they weren't placed there because they were high activity areas of town. Rather, they brought the activity. And these cities started to realize, you know, here we have a mechanism that can bring people in from throughout the region, and not only is it attracting locals and bringing them into a centralized facility where they get to conversate and get to know each other and come back on a continual basis, but it's bringing people in from throughout the region. And there's tons and tons of community development benefits that come off of that. And so suddenly you would have these markets that would be placed in different areas of town, and you've got development spurring around them within 1 to 2 years, 5 years down the road, and you've got a bustling portion of the city. And not only that, but you are decreasing poverty, you are improving the quality of life and reinvigorating neighborhoods. And essentially what some of these cities had to realize is that you can use urban sprawl to reinvigorate and revitalize your downtown. And urban sprawl is oftentimes contributed to it's phrased as being the murderer of downtown. You know, that is what murdered our downtowns of the 40s and 50s and 60s. People moved away from downtown, and suddenly we've got a black hole. And some creative geniuses realized, no, you know what? That's not such a bad thing. We can use these farms and these growers and these producers and these people living out on the suburbs with these expansive farms and bring them into downtown to revitalize their downtowns. Now, here's an interesting thought. Reverse the process a bit. And instead of bringing the growers and the producers and the farmers downtown to sell their product, why not bring them downtown to produce their product? If any of you know Dixon DePommier, he's a brilliant professor from Columbia University, came up with the idea of the vertical farm. And in his book, The Vertical Farm, he talks about how you can essentially take one city block and move an entire farm onto that city block. And when you think about it, there's a lot of cool things that can come off of that, because suddenly you have a facility that is able to house hundreds of acres of farmland in one city block. It's climate controlled. Products that normally we would be shipping in from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, can be produced here in Fort Wayne now. You're eliminating transportation costs, and you're also able to essentially house a whole ecosystem right there. So what he really realized is that you can essentially have a city that's producing all the food that it needs in one centralized location. You're eliminating transportation costs, increasing the number of jobs, because of course these facilities would have to be staffed. Many of the staff members would probably, it's presumable that some of them would move into downtown areas. Well then, a lot of the businesses in these urban areas have an increased consumer base. Well, that's attractive to businesses that are looking to potentially move downtown. So suddenly it's being used as a development catalyst, and before you know it, you are using a farm as an economic improvement engine for your downtown areas. So to close off what I'm saying here, next time that you're working in your garden, if you go there this evening, or you go out there this afternoon, or tomorrow afternoon rather, when you put that plant in the ground or pull that weed from the soil, think about how that could change the face of our urban core. And with that, go to lunch.